consulting firm, and we are focused on enabling businesses and organizations to achieve their desired outcomes through strategic communications, organizational effectiveness, and reputation management. And today, this is my first LinkedIn Live in quite a while, so I'm very excited to be having this. And we are launching this series called Spotlight on our SA&A courses, Spotlight on Alumni, Spotlight on SA&A course alumni. So people who have attended some of our courses, either online Zoom or on learn.sholabulu Associates, we're having a conversation with them. And today's conversation is going to be about brand strategy and marketing communications. It's part of the build-up for our course that is coming up on the 30th of April. I'm sure you can see what is scrolling up on the screen around that. And if you're joining us, wherever it is you may be joining us from, please put in your comments and let us know that you are here. Just so say hello to us and let us know that you can hear and you can hear us, so that at least we know that we're talking, that people are hearing from us. So I have a guest with me today. Her name is Damilola Bright Ukwenga, and she is a communications professional. She attended one of our courses, Brand Strategy and Marketing Communications course, earlier this year. And she has experience working with international and local brands across oil and gas, telecoms, FCMG, and FMCG, retail and publishing. I always make that mistake, sorry. And her work spans corporate communications, public relations, marketing comms, brand strategy. She has developed communication strategies. She manages media relations. She executes integrated campaigns that strengthen brand presence and connect with key audiences. She's also a certified project management professional and a member of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, which is NIPR. So welcome, Damilola. Thank you for spending this time with me. Say hello to everybody.
Hello, everyone. It's good to be joining in this afternoon. Thank you for having me, Mrs. Shola. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. It's really an honor to have you. So the way we're going to run this, and I think it's a little bit different from those of you who have joined my previous lives, how these things have been. But the way we're running this time around, I'm going to be asking Damilola questions. She's going to be sharing her experience, in this space. And I think that's really important. In fact, she was one that inspired me to actually start this, because she went through our course, 6 weeks course. She was very engaged. She asked a lot of questions. She was really on it. And, afterwards, she kept asking questions. And I was very inspired by her, how her willingness to learn. And I was just like, you know what, okay, maybe it will really help for us to, because we and I have had so many conversations, and I was like, a lot of what we were sharing, I felt that it would be useful to a lot of people. So this is an opportunity to bring this out there so that other people too can, get to hear, at least experience what it's like to hear from Damilola. There was even a chat that me and we had before we came on this session. And the way she answered it for me, I was like, yes, this is, and I hope you have the opportunity to share that again today. So Damilola, welcome. So tell me a bit about yourself and how you got into communications. Over to you.
Okay, thank you once again. So my name is Damilola Bright Ukwenga, right? And I think my journey into communications was kind of very natural. It came from my interest and what I was drawn to growing up. I was always around media in some way. I read newspapers a lot, and a lot, I mean like a whole lot, right? I was involved in writing content, even school activities around communication. At some point, I knew I wanted to study mass communication. It was very clear. Everyone who knew me knew, okay, you were going towards the path of mass communication, but I didn't get that initially. Right. For my first degree, I studied political science and international relations instead. But when I found my way back to school for my second degree, I went back for media and communications. But even while I was in school, both secondary and university, I always found a way to stay close to communication. I also spent most of my holidays working with press teams, just working in the media space, and corporate environment, organizing events, being on a committee for a publication or that publication or this event or that event. So my semester breaks were productive, doing comms related activities. So for me, I think it wasn't just what I studied, it was just what I consistently chose to do with my time. And I mean, that's how I found my way into communications.
Thank you, Damilola. Yes, Olamilekon, thank you for for letting us know that you are there because we're not hearing from anyone. So thank you. Thank you for joining as well. Yeah, so I like what Damilola said. She said it's like communications found her. It's not even that she found communications. And she talks about the fact that she'd always been involved, she was part of press club and things. And for me, I think this is so important. We have just 1 hour to do, and I'm really going to try and touch on a lot of important points. But what you've just said now, that's how I know that you are in the right profession. Because if you are a true comms person, you will do it for free. You will volunteer. In church, they will know you. In school, they will know you. It is later that you will discover that you can get paid for it, but you would have gravitated towards it because there's people always looking for writers. They're always looking for people who take photographs and tell stories. Yes. So the most I think, yeah, Olamide, you're there, you're here. Thank you. So they would always look for that. So I really like how you gave that backstory. By the way, I've not heard this before. So me myself, I'm exactly. That's nice. And then eventually you got into comms and you studied political science and international relations. I also, my first degree is also international relations. I
Mm.
bet you didn't know that. Did you know that?
I did not. I'm shocked.
That's my first degree. So you see the synergy. But yeah, so and then you went and did a master's in com. So you had the vocational background, you had the interest, and then you went and you had your first degree, which by the way, international relations is a good entry point into public relations. Even though
Yeah.
in school they make you think that it's only foreign affairs or diplomatic
Yeah.
service.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so, but it's a good entry. I've met a lot of people and they're very good. It's a very good segue if the passion is there. So sex now, how would you describe yourself? Second question, as generally in terms of, who are you?
I think first I'm an introvert. I think that's the first way I'm going to describe myself. Um, I am also someone who is very intentional, right? I really hardly don't just do things without having a big reason. Some people will call it being structured. I'm not that much of a spontaneous person, but I think over time I've tried to be, because I mean I've had to meet with different people, I've had to blend in some relationships. So I think I'm beginning to experience that spontaneous part of me, but I'm more of a structured person, not having defined rules I can follow. Literally confuses me lots of times, right? I am also smart. I know I should not be alien myself, but this is me describing myself. I think I am
Okay.
also an intelligent person, right? I like to think things through before acting. I'm also tenacious and forward thinking. I don't just look at the now. I'm able to ask myself, okay, so how does this matter tomorrow? How is this beneficial tomorrow? And I think that's where project management really, really gets me, because when you get on a project, you're also able to analyze the risk. You're also able to plan ahead. So when I'm getting on something, I already have like backup plans. And being a Christian, sometimes it could be a struggle because you should trust God completely. So I am still having to, get better in that aspect. But me, like, leave me to myself. I like to have backup plans. I like to think about what could go wrong as well as what could go right. If you have 10 people in your room saying what could go right, I most likely will be the one telling you, okay, can we look at it from this angle? What if this goes wrong? How do we prepare ourselves against it? So I'm that kind of person.
This is interesting. So thanks for that. I'm glad that we didn't run through the question. I mean, as in, I'm learning for the first time because I'm so fascinated by what I'm hearing. And you said the one word that I was expecting you to say is so uncanny. When I said describe yourself, and I didn't even give her a prompt before now as to how she should approach this question. The first thing she said she's an introvert. And I'm happy that she said it because I think this is the fundamental question that determines whether people are whether you align more into the PR side of things or the com side of things. I have observed that comms people are introverts fundamentally. Hey, Mr. Bright Ukwenga is here supporting the yes. Welcome. Welcome to the house. We recognize your presence, please. Thank you for joining us. So, yes, I know. Biggest fan. Thank you. Thank you for joining. So yeah, so introvert, and I like that. I like the self-awareness of that. I like everything that you have said because you see in this comms role, you have to have understand yourself first of all, because you will then have to see how you use the strengths that you have in the roles that you come at that you come across. So you said you're intentional. That's definitely going to help you in the comms job. There has to be a reason and structure. And I like the way you said it that if you are somewhere and there is no structure, you will find it challenging. So and most places, most organizations you will work with, particularly in our part of the world, there is no structure. So maybe at some point you tell us how you navigate that if you find yourself in that space. Some people they can go with the flow. Me too, I'm not a go with the flow kind of person. If I have to, I would like to have a structure. Then let it be that the structure failed, and then I then had to, know
Yeah.
that from the get go, I am going with the flow for what? Which kind of flow? Am I an ocean? Am I a wave? So, exactly, you say you're smart, you're intelligent, tenacious, forward thinking. All of this is very, very good for a career in comms. So I would say, if we're bringing it down to brand strategy and marketing communications, I would say, first of all, when you attended our course, let's start from that. Why did you attend? What was it that made you decide that you wanted to take a course in brand strategy and marketing communications?
Okay, so before I answer that, right, I wanted to say that this is the first time I'm even hearing that being an introvert, having an introverted personality should kind of works for people in comms. Because from the get-go, I've always heard you need to be an extrovert, and if you check these personality, websites online, they tell you the kind of career an introvert should take and the kind of career an extrovert should also take. And because PR also has to do with relationship building, you need to kind of know people, be able to influence them, have energy for them and all those things. I always felt like how was I going to survive, being an introvert in this industry. So hearing you say it's most people you've met during comms are introvert. I think we should have a group chat for introverted people in comms. There needs to be one.
Yes, I'm so ready for that. And most people don't know this, but I will also share with you after I've actually written a number of posts about this once I discovered it. So welcome on board. I'm the champion of introverts. So, but it doesn't mean PR. You are correct. So to do PR well, you need to be an extrovert. But if you
Yeah.
are naturally an introvert, you will tilt to the com side of things. You will do PR, but it's not your comfort zone. So back to you.
Okay. Okay. So the question on why I decided to take the course. So I think at that time, right? I mean, I'd done this whole stuff for a lot of time or for a long time, but it felt like um, I was at that point where I needed to either upskill or, you know, either upskill or find out what exactly was wrong on the client side. And you really cannot, if you take on, I think one of the things I even realized was, or one of the things I had to learn again was that when you take up a client's work, it's not necessarily about you, it's about them. You need to understand where they're coming from, you need to understand where they are going, right? And for those in FMCG particularly, there's a different way that their thought process works. So at that time, I was taking on something for a particular client, but there was a lot of inconsistency. Their direction kept changing, their audience kept shifting. There was no strong focus, and I think the most common word I heard from them was they wanted to go viral. They wanted to go viral. They wanted to go viral. You wouldn't even believe that. From the outside, I kind of knew what their target audience was, or who they wanted to talk to, and also getting inside. I also aligned with my initial assumption. I would later hear from someone who was in-house that they had even changed their target audience and the direction the brand wanted to go. So it meant that most of the campaign ideas and all that we are coming up with, even though their brief said this is what we wanted to do, there was a different expectation that was not being clearly communicated. So I realized that I needed something different, to help to move things from confusion to clarity. I needed to be able to help them see where they were going and also educate them better that it wasn't just about viral, PR wasn't just to go viral. There's a whole lot of things that has to do with PR. So I remember coming to you thinking I needed the strategic communication course, but after we had that assessment and I walked you through what I was currently going through, you recommended the brand strategy and marketing communication course. And honestly speaking, I think that was the best decision because going back there, I was able to ask better questions. I was also able to see how everything should align. Even though I was majorly doing PR for them, I was able to see, okay, how to better connect with the digital and execution team or even the creative team, and those different elements on the team. And while I'm even in the period of engaging with other clients, right, I'm able to ask that specific question. When clients start saying different things or start having different aims and objective, or I already know where the problem is. I've come to realize that the foundation of everything is really what a brand is, what they set out to do, not just their logo or their color and their product. So that was why it took the course at that point.
Thanks, Damilola. You're really dropping nuggets here. It's just I have so many questions. If not, I just want to. I would have wanted to really expand on what you're saying. And I really listening to you. I don't know. It just gladdens my heart because you're right. I have found that absence of structure, that foundational gap. I see people doing marketing disconnected from brand. How? No matter what it is you are selling, whatever it is you are marketing, is connected to a brand. Marketing is a temporary thing. Brand is forever there.
Wherever,
So
yes.
how do you like disconnecting your limbs from your head? How is it going to work? So please, and those of us that are on the call, or I mean, watching the session and all that, if you have any questions for Damilola, please put them in the chat because this is supposed to be interactive. Even though I have questions for her, she also has questions for me at some point. But if you have your questions, we'll take your own questions. Before I mean, before the program, before the time is up, just so that at least we can get things going. Those of you that have joined, like, make it worth a while. Yes. So back to you. The next question. Okay, so you told us why you attended the course. So then, what have you learned about brand strategy? I know you've talked a little bit about that, but you don't have to restrict yourself to whatever it is you learned from the course or whatever. But where you are at now, coming from your background, like you said, agency and have worked with a lot of agencies, managed big brands and things like that. What are your strong reflections about brand strategy and how it affects the work of whether it's a marketing comms person or a PR person, and why is it even important? Just share your thoughts with.
Okay. So, like I previously mentioned, right, one of the major things I've learned is that the brand strategy is really the foundation. It's really the first thing you need to know. And I think that people who are not in comms, right, think that the brand strategy, or when you talk about brands generally, they're looking at the logo, or what is it called now, or the font color and the likes, right? But there's so much to brand strategy. It is the architecture, the positioning, the brand statement. It is a whole lot of things. So one of the things that the courses, re-echoed, or had to reaffirm to me was, you can have strong PR or marketing com skills, but if you don't clearly understand what the brand is, if you don't understand the brand's positioning, its audience, its messaging, you struggle to get the right results. Now you might get results, yes, but not necessarily the desired ones. So everything really starts, from clarity at the brand level, right? Then if I link it up with the marketing communication side of it, my biggest takeaway would be that marketing communications must be based on what you've confirmed about the brand, not just what you assume. Because when you move into marketing communications, you're going to be interpreting what the brand strategy is. You're going to be saying what the brand strategy is. You're going to be saying everything the brand stands for. You can't do that if you don't understand, what exactly the brand itself is all about. From the outside, you might think you understand the brand, but when you get to working with them, when you get into the brand, you need that alignment, which was the example I gave earlier on, knowing already what a brand is about, who their focus is, what their campaigns are all about. But then stepping in to realize that they've already shifted position. And sometimes some of these clients don't even sit you down to tell you these things. Your job as a comms person is to have these conversations with them so that there won't be any disconnect in campaigns.
Thanks for this, Damilola. And honestly, I wish you had more time because you're touching on a lot of things. First of all, you said one of your learnings is the fact that when people talk about the brand, they're thinking about logo. They're not thinking about the essence. They're not thinking about the personality. They're not thinking about architecture. And yes, that is what I've also found out. Ish, that's what I'm spending my entire life making people understand. Brand is not logo. I see companies, they want to rebrand. They go straight to logo. As in straight. They're already telling me, I think the symbol should look like this. I think I like this color. I have this shape. I'm like, eh? You just gonna jump there. You don't even know what this brand is. How do you want to present this brand? And then they will now design the logo. They now dump the brand in the marketplace, and nobody's buying. Nobody's even registering your presence, and you're wondering because no thought has been gone into how you are going to present yourself. You do not see it that the brand is in itself a personality that needs to be. It's like you are presenting something to
Yeah, you need
society.
to treat it as a person.
Yes, as a person. So who is this person? What
That's
does the
a
person believe?
yeah.
Yes, you're going to say something.
Yeah, I was saying that it has a voice. It does have a voice, and that is what people that is what people in marketing comes when need to communicate, to the target audience and every other person.
Excellent. And to be honest, when we did the course, we wanted people who were in brand strategy to come, but we created it actually for marketing comms people because we've noticed that disconnect. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that. And then I liked what you said about it is important to find out when you come in and you are given a project, either as agency or staff or whatever, it's important for you to think about what you have confirmed about the brand, not what you assume. You also talked about when sometimes you are on the agency side, you know, you don't have opportunity to clarify things with the clients. And to be honest, this is a practice that I've heard a lot about, and I don't understand this. So those of you that are on the agency side, if any of you are on the call, please explain to me. Me, I don't understand how you agency people are not able to sit down with clients and have conversations. Because I've been on projects. We are consultants. We consultants we operate differently. Our job is to ask questions. So we ask questions all the time. And if as a consultant you don't ask questions, then you don't know your job. So for us, it's a different ballgame. We ask questions, we interrogate, we're like researchers in the organization. So they're not surprised when we ask questions. So I want to understand a little bit more. And this is not for Damilola, this is for those of us in the audience. Please help us understand why it is that agencies find it so difficult to ask questions, to clarify, to convene meetings with clients and say, what you're saying, please, can we understand? Is it, I see them, they just go straight to implementation. Whether they are talking rubbish or it makes sense, so it don't make sense, you just go ahead and implement. We consultants don't operate that way at all. Anyway, so that's an aside. So yeah, so I really liked that your reflection. And I think maybe as we go along, so I don't know if it's a conversation we can have, maybe and all that. How do you think that it's something to reflect on? You don't have to answer it, but for me, I'm like, what is the way forward? I don't think this is the right way to practice. As a comms person, regardless of wherever you are, even if you're an organization, you cannot do your job if there is no clarity. So whatever questions you need to ask to get that clarity is very, very important. So let me just go to the next question, therefore, I have for you. And so, okay, you've already talked about that. You've talked about brand strategy. Have you talked about key takeaway from marketing communications? Have you
Yes,
addressed that? You have
yes, yes,
addressed.
yes. I merged this with that
Okay, that's the
response.
last question. Okay. So, what is your biggest challenge as a comms practitioner now? And how are you navigating it?
Mm, Well, I think one of the major challenges with working with clients, whether from the agency side or from the corporate side, is everyone thinking that they know what communications should look like, or the way it should operate. I think especially in terms of content. So in my initial response, I'd mentioned working on a project for a particular client, and the most common word I heard was viral, 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 viral. It seemed like whatever objective you wanted to align with, whatever messaging you wanted to communicate through your campaign didn't really matter most. It was just going viral. And the thing about being viral is it doesn't really last, right? It's not sustainable because you're everywhere today, but then tomorrow you're not there. So you need to keep pulling stunts. And I don't think that that foundation is really strong, right? Because like you earlier mentioned, brand strategy is long term, right? So if you're going viral, you're not communicating anything. You're just going viral for what? What, even in your virality in quotes, what's the aim? What do you really want to achieve? Is it just to be seen out there? Then they don't see you again. Then to come out again. And so I think that's really the biggest challenge. A lot of times, having to reiterate what exactly communications can do, what exactly marketing communications should be. So but how I've been able to handle that is by asking better questions, because truth be told, clients don't know better, right? And I think that that's why we are all in this, or that's why we're practicing this profession. And one of the responsibilities there with practicing comms is you have to educate people. It's not because they want to just go viral. Probably it's because that's what they are used to, or that's the extent of their knowledge when it comes to communication, right? So how I handle it is by asking better questions, right? So if you want to go viral, for instance, why do you want to go viral? What does success look like for you? What happens after that visibility? Because like I said, most times that visibility doesn't always translate to value. So that's really the biggest challenge. People thinking that they already know what communication should do, or what it should look like, or how it should be executed. But then I've been able to navigate it by asking more questions, and by also advising, where and when necessary.
So, my dear audience, are you seeing why I fell in love with Damilola? Do you people, are you understand? Are you seeing why she's here? She said something. She said, visibility does not translate to value. It's true. It's the truth. This obsession with going viral for what? Are you a notorious brand? Are you an infamous brand? What is it? So for me, whenever I hear that I want to go viral, I'm like, to what end? I don't get it. And do you know how difficult it is to be viral? You literally be viral. For you to be viral for 24 hours, man, you must have done something very bad. It's not a good thing that we keep you viral for 24 hours. It's scandalous. It's scandal. So viral, and if you're a mature brand, you're a legacy brand, I don't understand why you are associating virality with your brand. It shows a fundamental lack of understanding of
Yeah.
what the purpose of your brand is. So to be honest, we comms people, we have a challenge. Oh. I believe that we PR and comms people, we really need to have in family meeting with ourselves. Because what I think is happening is that the world is changing. So this whole media phenomenon is catching all of us at the same time, and we're allowing other people to dictate the pace and the direction. People who don't know better. Have you seen a doctor that allows the patient to tell him where to go? The doctor will stay true to his medical standards. Patients will have a role because it's your body. But a doctor will not do something that is medically unsound because the patient asked for it, except you're an unethical doctor, like Michael Jackson's doctor that gave him what he should not have given him, and see what happened. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you as a professional, you don't even have standards, then anything anybody tells you to do, you will do it just because you want to collect the money. And at the end of the day, it falls back on the profession. So I really, really like that. You also said that thing, it's funny, do you know you're repeating almost everything that, you're answering the question almost the way I would have answered. Because you saying one of the greatest challenges is everyone thinking that they can do communications. It's a major challenge. It's a major one. And I kid you not, every comms person, that's the first myth that you must debunk once they work with you. So you must be so professional, that the first time they meet you, either you are an employee or you are a client, they must come out of that meeting be like, my goodness, I didn't know anything. No, I didn't. They must come out of it. If you do not have that impression on them, you are finished. I'm telling you, they'll be dictating everything for you. The blind leading the blind. Anyway, so please don't get me started. Don't get me started. Anyway, so where do we okay? So next question. There's a question in the chat before, because two questions have come in now. So let's answer that one before. Clara, thank you for joining us. Welcome, and thank you for you dropped your question. Opemipo, thank you for coming in too. Okay, the first question was from Olamilekon. He said, how does FMCG vary from other markets niche? How is it different? So I think so she's talking marketing comms question now. So he's saying how does that space differ from others? And I know you are very, you can answer it well. Please answer. Go ahead, Damilola. Please tell him how it's different.
So I think that the major way it's different is in terms it is more experiential. Do you get? Because you're not just telling people something, you're going to experience it. So let's take a drink brand, for instance. It could be any drink brand. After I've written all the marketing comms and everything, people still get to taste, that drink. If they don't have a good feel about it, or if it doesn't come out well, probably maybe the quality, the design of the bottle, whatever it is, it would have more backlash, right? So FMCG, I think the biggest thing is it is more experiential, than other niches. Yeah, you're dealing with something tangible. You get to hold this, you get to feel it, you get to apply it to yourself.
That's a fantastic. That's in fact, I don't think I could have. That's why I gladly ceded that question to you. I could have answered it better. She's right. You're right. Because thinking about it, because I work more in the B2B space, and in B2B, it's not experiential at all. What are you experiencing about energy and crude oil? You understand what I'm saying? So, or telecoms and that kind of thing. But so we market the content, we market the brand, but it's not experiential. So a lot of it is about building affinity, familiarity, presence, and all of that. But for them, no matter the comms, if you cannot create a physical experience where they're going to interact with the product, where they're going to drink it and taste it, then you have not, your comms hasn't finished. And if people have not even tasted it, until they taste it, the marketing experience is not finished. That's awesome. I really,
And,
oh, that's
and one bad review can also mess everything up.
yep.
There was this case of, so I don't even know if this one is accurate or not, but there was the case of Erisco, tomato paste that went viral. I think was it last year or 2 years ago, and I think it's still an ongoing case because I saw like a news report about it earlier this year, right? So it's just that, in quote, it's a very fragile place to operate in, right? You want to ensure that your product quality and your comms quality like are at par. You cannot oversell the product and people's experience is below standard.
I love this. She says you got product quality and your comms quality. Is that what you said? Product quality and comms quality.
I think what comms efforts like need to be at
Yes.
par.
So it must be at par. So that's profound. That's profound. And to be honest, because a lot of brands do it differently. You are hyping up one product that is not all that. At the end of the day, by the time I taste, I'll be like, it's like some
What's
movies. I mean, what's this? Like some movies that some people have attended. After they now go to the cinema, now come back and be like, is that the movie people were hyping? And that secondary, by the time we now read that review, most of us, people who haven't gone, the second batch, they're not likely to go. They're like, the first people that watched,
exactly
they didn't really
exactly?
like that. They said the movie was overhyped. So you should really match before you make sure your product is really all that before you go all the way. Which again brings to the point as to why I think PR and comms people have to be more assertive. Because if you before you market any product, you need to taste it. If it's film, watch the film. Tell them, can we watch it? Tell us what it's about so that you know what you're selling, you're marketing. And I know most people don't do this. I know it may not always be possible with films for obvious reasons. But then at some point, by the time you start premiering and all of that, it's better because if not, then
Yeah,
you may
there's gonna be a lot of crisis to deal with. Yeah,
yeah, yes, better be prepared. For instance, if there are sensitive topics, sometimes even the titles, and that's why because some people they came up with some titles recently that they had to be apologizing for. I'm like, this was avoidable. Anyway, let's pack all of that.
exactly.
you know so yeah, so final question that I have for you, what do you wish you could change about the communications profession? There's another question. I don't know, I don't want to miss you asking this question, then I'll take the other question on online. So what do you wish you could change about the communications profession and why?
Mm. Okay, so amongst so many things, I think it would maybe be how the profession itself is, practiced. in terms of the competence level, the career growth, the structure. And when I say structure, yeah, I'm using it loosely. Like it doesn't have to be something so it doesn't have to be something so serious, right? But just there, right? I think that for the law profession, or for the for those who are accountants and even engineers and all, there is I feel that there is like a pattern, right? When you're supposed to take a particular course, when you're supposed to take a particular level, what exactly you need for this phase and all those things, right? I don't really see much of it in comms, and I think that it can get better. I don't think that every entry level person in comms always has to wing it for the first how many months now or weeks now, and they now begin to form their own opinion about how comms should be practiced. Then it is also passed down to those people who they begin to supervise, and they also take up those learnings and also pass it down to other people. And from there, you now have to start dealing with combating communication skills or communications opinions that are not even valid. Do you get? So I think that there needs to be a better system around it, that helps everyone to be better communications professionals, and also practice the profession better. I think that's really where deeper respect for the process and strategy and even the industry itself would begin to emanate from.
Thank you for that, Damilola. And to be honest, this is something that I agonize a lot about. I like what you said. You said people forming communications are based on their own opinions and then passing it down. You see, what you've just said, you've highlighted two very dangerous things that I have also observed in my 30 plus years of practice, but even more so now. I see the danger of it now. So apart from you have imbibed, okay, there was nobody to teach the person, so the individual has inculcated certain types of ways of working, and it worked for the person, so to speak. But it's not ideal, neither is it standard. But you now pass it on. And we're seeing this a lot in terms of how people handle media engagements, how people think
Mhm.
it's okay to issue press releases where you are lying, you're not telling the truth, and then you double down by the time people are fact checking you because you learned it wrong. It is not okay to lie in a press release. You are unprofessional. Forget ethics. I don't want to talk about ethics. It's unprofessional to lie in a you are a dangerous professional if you can knowingly misrepresent the truth in a press release that will go out, that people will read. It will be on record. They can carry it to court and take your clients to court. You are a very unprofessional person. And even if you got away with it in 45 years, you may something else may happen. That person may be investing in a future lawsuit. But unfortunately, many people have gotten away with that in the past. They have passed that on to the point that people like me, if I'm in a room with those kind of people, and I'm saying no, you cannot lie, they'll be looking at me as if because who is going to stop us? You know that kind of thing. That's very sad.
One of the biggest myth also in this space is that a journalist to make a good PR person. Once you've done journalism, you can just go into PR and communications. And starting out, I think that was also one of the things I kept hearing. So at some point, I also had to do a bit of journalism, political journalism. But after getting into the PR like space, and being on the client side and also at the agency side, I can tell you that it is not true, right? I think that any successful journalist or any journalist who successfully wings PR and communications must have taken time to really give themselves to the process, to the study. Now, I didn't have my first degree in communications, but like I mentioned earlier, I had to go back to get a degree there. I had to go back to learn, to know what exactly it takes to do things the right way. I had to read, I had to ask questions, I had to reach out to professionals, I had to take courses. Um, I've been doing it for a very long time, right? I mean, like before going back to school, but I still felt like I could not really make opinions or form strong opinions or pass down something that I wasn't really sure if it would work or if it aligned with what exactly the global standard of practice should be, which was what drove me into going to school, to take a degree in that aspect. Then also upskilling myself here and there, taking courses, webinars, and the like. So I think one of the biggest scam really is that you can be a journalist and also do comms work, which still falls back to the fact that the entry level, the structure attached, the processes, how you rise in comms, all those things are not so clear, right? So it also sometimes makes it seem like those people who are actually practicing comms very well are not the ones you really see out there. Maybe you see more of the ones who are more popular, who are more opinion, who are, I don't want to use the word loud, who are more who are more extroverted, right? While the ones who are really doing the work or painstakingly doing comms are, just somewhere at the back, and in a way comms does not really pay them.
Wow, this is so. Yeah, I hope those of you online are getting anyway. Please share your comments so that we can know whether any of this is resonating with you. Because even for me, hearing this from her, because she's validating a lot of the things that I have observed, and it's important to hear it from people at different stages in their career, because then you know that there is a real problem. Because if I'm saying it at where I am, and I'm also talking to somebody else who's in a different space, in a different time, at a different experience, and there's synergy, then there's a major issue. And this thing she says about thinking that a journalist can be a good PR person is a real problem that we're struggling with in Nigeria. There's a lot of legacy around it, because people always, in the past, it was when people hired or PR people, it was always to manage the press, the media. And they assumed that the media would respect people who had been in journalism. So
Before,
that
yeah.
was how he'd be able to talk to his press guys. So that was it. So in those days, that made sense when there was no internet, and all you needed to do was people who can you can call the newsroom and tell them to put in this story for you on NTA News, or put this on the front page tomorrow, and everything was run by the newsroom. But now that we have social media and communications is democratized, the entry journalism as an entry point into comms, honestly, is a very faulty one. I am yet to see anybody that entered, and this is going to be a very controversial statement. Apologies to anybody that gets offended by it. I'm yet to see anybody who entered through core journalism and that is good at communications. At managing the media, perhaps. Managing social media, very rarely. I'm yet to see one that I would say has really managed the social media crisis well. Yes, there are, and because today now, if you like call the media, mainstream media may not report, but social media can destroy you. So who cares that you have a link into the newsroom? It doesn't matter. So I think what this conversation is showing, and it validates what I also see, is that our profession is evolving, but unfortunately we have not evolved the structure of support around it at pace with what the work environment dictates. That structure isn't there. The pathway to guide people who are younger and coming up, the language to even differentiate, the pathways, journalism pathway, you go straight into traditional media. That's my own feeling. PR, yes. I don't really see, in fact, I even want to do that piece of work where I'm going to talk about the pathways I've seen and the best way. Journalism pathway, just go to the PR side, media side, be a media specialist, you do very well. People may give you a corporate communications role, that's fine, but you then have to get specialists to work on that. You have a gap, you have a major gap, and it's not likely that you can close it if you're somebody who has spent like 15 years already in the media, you're already cast in stone in that direction. There are two different, left brain, right brain, media and comms. They're not exactly the same at all, particularly if you were in traditional media, but I digress. So there's one question from the audience again. I think that came from, let me just see, Clara, yes. So Clara said, what's your view on developing a brand strategy for the individual, not just the product or organization? Like, why is it often treated as a separate package? I'm trying to understand do you know what she means by separate package?
Not really. So
Okay,
if
so
it was just the first line, yeah, but that second line of yeah, as a separate package. Because I was going to say brand strategy applies to individuals, organizations. Like it's not mainly for products or organizations.
So Clara, please explain to us what you mean by separate package. But so I think what she said, let me try and I sort of sense, let me take a stab at what I think she's trying to say here. So brand strategy, the principles of brand strategy, which is part of what we teach on the course, that we do, our courses which we take, which by the way, we have an online Zoom one coming up on the 30th of April. We will teach you the principles of brand strategy. That applies and can be applied across board, whether it's
Yeah.
individual, whether it's product, whether it's corporate, but you will adapt it. But the principles are the same. Do you understand? A brand operates in a market, a brand has its face, a brand has a premise, it has a story, it has a promise, it has a value proposition. It is the same. But if you are dealing with like if you want to go to what I found in the market is that there are some consultants or some agencies that focus more on personal branding, different from corporate branding. Now, why that just to answer that part about separate package, I have observed that some people they specialize in that personal branding. I don't know whether you've noticed that, Damilola. There's some people that that's all they do, and that personal branding is a little bit different in practice than corporate branding, because personal branding, you are branding an individual and you are building a lot of things around that individual. So you can be very, very, it's just a little, it's very personal. But corporate branding is not built around an individual. You cannot build a corporate brand around an individual. It's an entity. So
Yeah.
even though there's a face for that brand, momentarily, for instance, I give an example. Dangote, there's a current face for the brand. He has a succession plan. When it's, do you understand? There will be another face in future, 25, 30 years from now. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you are building that brand, so he will have the head, the CEO has, and he does have his own personal brand. So anybody managing that personal brand will be managing it personally for him. It is different from corporate brand. There are certain things that he can say as a personal, as an individual, that the
They
corporate
can
brand cannot
say,
say.
yeah. Yeah.
So you must never confuse the two. So I do agree with you. Maybe that's what you mean by separate.
The
You must,
execution.
yes, you must never confuse the two. I, for instance, I have a personal brand as Shola Abulu, and then I have a corporate brand which you can see. I don't even know which side I should be pointing to. Yes, as SA&A, and on my personal page. There, you see that I talk about politics, I talk about governance, and all about my corporate page is not going to be talking about that. My
Yeah.
corporate page is focused on strategic comms, organizational effectiveness, repetition, risk management. But on my personal page, I talk about faith, I talk about life, I talk about society, governance, and all of that. Two voices, yes. I am the face of the brand, but then that doesn't mean that the brand, we have two
Is
different voices. And anybody supporting my personal brand, the approach will be different. There are some synergy areas, but there are a lot of points of divergence as well. So I don't know if that answers your question.
yeah,
And if
and everything I was going to say, and everything still ties back to the brand strategy. Everything still ties back to the brand strategy.
Thank you. You are so right for that, because for me now, my personal brand, I have a brand strategy. I have a mission that is as Shola Abulu, that is different from the mission of my entity.
Yeah,
I have a
exactly.
lifelong mission, but the mission of my entity is contained within, it has a very narrow customer base, very niche, very whatever. My personal brand is not constrained in that way at all. So the strategy of the two are completely different, aligned on some issues, but divergent on many others. We don't get it twisted. So I don't know, Clara, if that answers your question. A very good one, by the way, because it has made us ask, So any more questions before? Because if you don't have any more questions, we have 10 minutes more. I will ask Damilola to ask me one or two questions before we call this a wrap. And but if you have questions, then we'll take your questions. And there's a bit of a delay, I think, from the studio here, so I may not see your questions immediately. But if you type them in, hopefully I should be able to see it. And by the way, we have our live online Zoom course coming up. You can see it on the screen on the 30th of April. We have discounts running, 10% discount. We had about several discounts schedules running. And we're on the last one now, which is going to end on the 14th, which is on Tuesday. So if you can register and pay before then, you get that 10% off. But if not, from then it's full price from like the 15th, which is like Wednesday next week. And we're going to be talking about all these things. There are going to be 4 modules on that course. The way we run our courses, the same thing that we do on our live online courses, is exactly what we have on the 6 weeks pre-recorded course, which Damilola attended earlier in the year. The advantage of the pre-recorded one is that you have 6 weeks in which to interact and ask questions, and people like Damilola used it well. Hey, I thought she used it. She asked, and I mean, in fact, I still have to download some of my responses, her responses back to her, and that was really, really nice. And we built a rapport. We've continued to chat since then, which is why she's here now. She's ended the courses, so several weeks ago, or months. I don't know where you finished it, but it's been a while. So, but the conversation has continued, which is why she's here today. But then we also have the live online ones. Those are for people who like to do live in person. It's still virtual, it's online. Then we do 9 to 4, but it's the same course content, it's the same curriculum, it's the same set of slides. And we deep dive into brand strategy, everything we talked about today and whatever. And one important thing I say to people about the difference between when you are trained and when you are not trained. You hear Damilola today. Do you see how she's bringing out the language of communication? Are you hearing her lingo? Are you hearing it? So if, like me, if you come for an interview with me, if I'm on a panel, sometimes I'm called into panel as a consultant to help my clients resource people. If I don't, there's certain lingo I don't hear from you. I'm sorry, I'm not impressed. I know that you are not in the space. You are not in the space. You don't mention architecture, you don't talk about promise, you don't talk about positioning, you don't talk about value. Do you understand? You all those things, you don't understand it. So I just know that, man, this one is a winger. And we're not looking for wingers. So that another question for me.
Okay, so I was going to ask you, right? What is one mistake you see communications, professionals make repeatedly, especially early in their careers? Something you think can still be corrected, if there's an opportunity to do so.
There are many. So let me that you're asking me one. Let me mention at least three. One, specializing too early. It's a big mistake. I see people, they're just doing one thing, digital marketing, and they are there. It's too early to specialize. How? Because it will get to a point, the best thing that anybody can do is make you a marketer. Ask yourself 20 years from now, do you want to be a marketer, or do you want to be a marketing communications specialist, or do you want to be a chief communications officer if such a role comes up? Because if you want to be a chief corporate communications officer, you want to be able to take that kind of role, then you have to move outside of digital marketing. It's too early for you to be specializing. Very least aligned with that is number two, is people restricting their understanding to what they are learning on the job. I don't understand. Me, I worked for an international oil company for many years. They trained us like crazy. We were trained in different parts of the world. If you are not working for that kind of company, why are you restricting yourself to what they are teaching? The only thing that your job tells you to do. Many of you, is the same thing you are doing day in, day out. And a profession that has a breadth from here to here, you are restricting yourself to that little chunchulu thing that they're telling you to do. You will not go and join professional association and learn. You will not go and do training. You won't help yourself. That's the second very common that I see a lot of people making. So that I see a lot of people just staying in their comfort zone. And I'm like, look at me. When I entered the workforce, there was PR only. It was 15 years into the workforce that this whole internet and comms thing came. I had to tell myself, I had to learn social media like a baby. I joined my church group social media team and was learning from 20-something-year-olds, young millennials at the time. By that time, I was 15 years in practice. I was already a manager in my job. They had to teach me how to do Twitter thread. As in, the first time they said, no, let's do a thread. I said, what's thread? They say, when you do they showed me. I started running campaigns. But because I was willing, I transited fully from public relations to comms. Guess what? Many years down the line, many of my colleagues that did not make that transition, they are still stuck in that past. Now, AI is coming. I am entering AI too, learning it afresh. Why would I? So I have my specialist areas, but I am such a generalist. I have covered the spectrum of comms, and that's why I can function like a consultant today. That's why I can teach. We have 5 courses. We talk about policy communications, political communications, development communications, brand. We do corporate communications, faith-based. I do any sector because I have not restricted myself. I'm not saying that everybody has to follow my trajectory, but I'm saying give yourself the breadth, because in life you don't know what will happen, so you have to give yourself that breadth. Don't restrict yourself to the point that you become like Kodak, where when nobody wants to buy this type of camera anymore or photo, you don't have anything else to fall back on. You can't afford it. So for me, those are, I think, the mistakes. Restricting yourself to what the job, your job. Even me, I was like I said, I was working for an international oil company, but at a stage I realized that I wasn't getting what I needed. I just felt that if I leave this job now, I will, I may, or if they throw me out for any reason, who will hire me? So I went back and I did an MBA at Lagos Business School, and that was a godsend because that then opened my mind into how business works. And a lot of that learning is what I use right now, even as a consultant. In fact, many business leaders, the reason why I can communicate with them is because I understand the language of business. So even though I'm talking comms, I'm speaking comms from a business mindset. That has helped me. Right now, I have 3 degrees. I've not gotten a PhD yet. So forget all this and the little certification that I have at the back. There are some certifications that I'm still considering going for. I'm still asking myself, shouldn't I? But there's a value proposition because all of it is bankable assets. And to the glory of God, I'm reaping the fruits now. So for me, it's just putting yourself in that space whereby you have options in future. And I want to see a lot more of that happening within the younger generation. I don't know, Damilola, if that answers your question small.
No, that was really detailed. That was really detailed.
So okay, I think we have 2 minutes more. If no one has any questions, comments, please let us know how you feel if you're hearing us and if this has been a good session for you and all that. We're going to bring this to close finally. I don't know, Damilola, if you have any last thoughts that you would like to share.
Well, not much at all. I think you wrapped everything in your feedback to the question that I asked. So thank you. I mean, for the um, opportunity to talk about my experience taking the course, right? And it's something I'm really going to recommend. Doesn't matter how far you think you've gone in your career, no knowledge is a waste. So I think if you can, you should take the course and many others.
Thank you, Damilola. Thanks a lot. So we're going to bring this to a close, and really thank you for. I think I've enjoyed this session. I hope you've enjoyed it too. I really had fun. In fact, I almost feel like I should even invite you again, but maybe that will be at the end of the year because I've enjoyed this a little bit too much. I really enjoyed just listening to you and hearing you, and this proves to me that I think this is a good format and. This will be an open call for anybody who has attended any of our courses before. If you want to be my next guest on this program, please just holler at me, send me a DM, and let's have a conversation. And you've seen what the format is like. It's really spotlight on you. I think today, I hope we have shined the spotlight on Damilola quite a little bit. And for me, I've learned a lot. Even just I'm going to go back and watch this. Not every time I watch my LinkedIn lives, but this one I will because I think she said so many things that for me it's just really really useful to hear because I'm also in that space where I need to know what's going on
Yeah.
across the value chain because I'm also consulting. So, I need to be able to advise better. And, my own experience is not enough. I need to understand what other people are experiencing as well so that it makes me a better professional. So, on that note, I'll say thank you to everyone who joined us today. And please share this video with anyone that you think would benefit from it and also want some direction. I'm looking forward to an opportunity when we will some of the issues that we've talked about here today. Those of us who are senior in the profession will be able to address it or more senior in a structured way and provide more guidance for people coming up. But it's something that we have to do together as an institution in an institutional way. And I'm still thinking about how we can, that process will go through. But whatever it is that some of us can do in our own private spaces, we'll do what we can. And whatever it is, God creates the opportunity for some of us to come together and do something too. I really pray for that to happen so that, some of these things can be addressed. But on that note, I'll say thank you so much for the time today. And we're bringing this to a close. Thank you, Damilola, my wonderful guest. Thank you. I wish you all the best. Future endeavors and everything. Clara, thank you. You say it's a lovely session. Yes, Damilola's, yeah, very relatable. I agree with you. They're very relatable. And Clara, thank you for the one awesome question and for joining. And so, yeah, so we'll see you on the next session. Send me if you want to join and you're a course participant. Sorry, it's only for alumni. If you want to be featured, then you have to attend one of our courses first. Otherwise, but if you are a course participant, you have attended, please just let me know. We'll schedule you in on the time that is on. So on that note, thanks Damilola, and thank you, Mr. Bright Mukwenga for joining and supporting as well, and everyone else. I wish you a lovely end day and rest of the day and weekend ahead. Thank you. Thanks everyone. Bye bye. Bye everyone.